Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining the panel today. Today, we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, which is observability for AI native software. We'll try to expand this discussion with our CDF ambassadors here, what advanced features for observability could look like in near future, what kind of advancements we see in the open source community, and expanding the scope of observability, what it means, like why the traditional boundaries of observability with matrices, logs, and traces are being redrawn. And in the AI era, how observability will play an important role. So before we start this panel, I would like to introduce all the panelists here. We'll start with Yair. Yair, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Yael, currently living in Berlin. Second year as a CD Foundation ambassador. I have around 30 years experience working in many fields around. And right now I'm engineering manager in Ambos GmbH. So I would like to give the opportunity to Jash.
Hi there, I'm Jash, and I am a release manager at Kingfisher, part of the environment release and FinOps team. My focus is on scaling release on demand across the business, empowering our engineering teams to deploy as frequently as needed, while still managing enterprise grade governance and compliance requirements within the organization. This is my first year as a CDF ambassador. I'm a new man on the block. And I've worked in IT, I think altogether for like 17 years, but in different roles. But in the last couple of years, specifically on release on demand. So I'll hand over to, sorry, my screen. I'm trying to, so I think, Pavel, I'll hand over to you.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Pavel. I'm based in Poland, so kind of close to you here. CDF ambassador for a little bit longer, kind of veteran, I think, already. Developer advocate at UpCloud, so European cloud provider. Almost 30 years of experience in IT. So as I always say, I saw too many things which I don't want to see again. So yeah, I'm happy to be here, and there is only one person who is left, Moise.
Yeah, thank you, Pavel. My name is Moise Kamini, based in the Great Montreal in Canada, and my main role, I'm working as an enterprise architect in the power company in the Quebec, and my role now is also as an enterprise architect. I also lead open source OSPO, the OSPO in the Hydro Quebec, since 2 or 3 couple of years, and I think 3 years also as an ambassador, the CDF ambassador. So happy to be here today for this panel. So just give my floor to the Gerima. Continue. Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. And I would like to introduce myself. I am the chair for the Ambassador Program at CD Foundation. And we would do similar panels in the future. Today, we are going to talk about AI native software and what is changing for observability and why observability becomes a critical element of the ecosystem. How observability sees its role expanding in the context of AI. That's what we will dig deeper into. But before we start, I think I will direct this question to Powell to baseline. When we talk about AI native software, what has changed?
Well, the short answer would be a lot. The longer answer would be really a lot. I think that there are a couple of elements really, because AI today, even still treated as a buzzword, become more and more aligned to our needs. Right? We understand more and more what we can do with AI and where we should use AI. And starting from the development really to really running the software into production, right? And this is the one aspect. Second aspect is also how we monitor those things. So DevOps Borat said many years ago, who is monitoring a monitoring server? And the same is here, how we monitor AI, right? And if we use AI to monitor AI, because this is the step, well, what next, right? Who is monitor the AI, who is monitor the AI, and so on and so on. I'm speaking mainly about hallucinations. And the point here is that with having proper AI like built as a top of our monitoring approach to the whole pipeline, I would say, because it's not only about the running software, it's also about the preparing, building, writing the software. We have to understand the complexity behind the tool we use for it from the one side, and from second side, we have to, well, understand that if we use this tool, we have to trust it somehow. Because, let me come back to the really beginning. We write the code with AI. We saved 2 days of work, right? But then we want to check this code. How much it will take? 3 days. Because it's not our code. We need to understand this code. So this advantage of, speeding up is lost, right? So the same will be here if we want to monitor things. And I know I talk too much, so now I'd like to ask you, what do you think?
This is a good segue, Pavel, and I'll go to Yair for this question because you mentioned a very important point, and this was one of the part of the questions which we had in the beginning, that how observability will play an important role when we talk about intent and outcome alignment. When we talk about AI native software, we would like to have some kind of an observability to ensure that we have this alignment and ensuring that AI system goals, actions, and behaviors are consistent with what we intend to do with this software. So, Yair, if you can help us with this discussion and throw some light on, how observability will move beyond logs, matrices, and traces and start to track system behavior, for example.
Yes, on one hand, this sounds all great, exactly like what Pavel said. It's like, okay, so basically I can have an agent, and the agent will, even in a great situation, can predict by looking at certain patterns and doing some pattern recognition. He says like, okay, so this pod is going to disappear soon. I will even remedy something by myself. Okay, but the thing is this, when we call this tools AI, and in the last months I was really drilling down, and you can see a lot of my messages, and I'm working and I get good results, but one thing is that I bring 30 years of experience. Second thing is I'm very critical about my work, and I come from QA and DevOps background, which means I'm a skeptic to the bone about anything. And I observe people, and hence I created for these teamukes that I use, like they're characters for me. And sometimes I treat them like seniors and juniors, but the end of the day, what we call AI is basically right now trying to do the things we did. So in a sense, it's trained on our knowledge, and it's not a thinking organism. So it's basically at some point it lied to me, very like it says that he did the test, he cannot do the test. Root cause analysis is something that you need to sometimes extort from this. And there's a lot of things that when we work with humans, we don't talk about. Like if you work with at least very senior people, you say, I need that. And then in the 10th million time, this creature brings Docker Compose. So to come back to a thing, I think the first thing we need to have is a very clear patterns for it to work at. Two, very, very simple execution that it needs to do. And third, very, very, very clear and very deep knowledge about the information we are using for it to be working on. And I think this is where I can push it to Moise.
Yeah, uh, you want to take but on my side, I'm very aligned for every argument you have, you both guys. My point of view is on the governance side or the compliance side. Because when we are the AI area now, we talk about lot of talk about the code generation generated by from anywhere on the repository, and we have to make sure that we are compliant. We are compliant about the license, because that is the thing we are dealing with now on the huge organization, to be compliant about the code generate. So the observability can take a side to make sure we are compliant by using the code, by using the good license, by integrate the good license when you made a mismatch with the software. So that is the one point. Is very important to look at it and take care of it. And other side, we can check also on the vision. So sometimes that's this point. Sometimes when I have a discussion with my colleague, is like you want to use the robot to check how we are doing the stuff. So also we can use AI has observability to make sure the code is sanity. So just go and see how the code is right, and see if it's a very sanity for use in the company or used by other people. So that's the 2 points I can add about what you say, guys. So I just let Guillermo launch before.
So
Yeah.
these are all good points. I think we can come back to that, traces and how we can trace intent versus outcome, as well as how do we actually have extended logging to ensure that, we monitor from inception stages how the software is being built by these automated technologies, right? But I'll come back to you guys in a while. But Jesh, you come from like release management domain, and a lot of these agents and agentic AI is in the mix now. So people are talking about bringing automated decision making, for example, in the loop. So how do you see that moving forward, and what kind of practical challenges can be resolved by observability in this domain?
So thank you very much. This is an awesome topic to discuss, because coming from a release on demand environment, in my organization, we are advocating for engineering teams to integrate their CI/CD pipelines into other systems to have like end-to-end visibility. And one of the key technologies that we're embedding into those pipelines is observability, right? Observability that will give quicker feedback across the whole 360-degree cycle. Observability that will give user feedback, automation feedback, all forms of feedback. So observability is not about monitoring anymore. In modern systems and AI systems, it's about embedding it in the pipeline, automating it. And I'm going to be selfish here. One form of automating this is by going through release on demand, whereby all your systems are integrated, including governance and compliance, which Moise expanded on a bit, all into your pipeline, so that when teams, whether it's AI models or systems, they're deploying continuously, observability gives them that confidence. They're getting regular feedback, and they're learning and adapting while they're deploying to production.
Thank you, Josh. And you brought up a very interesting point, right? I mean, when we are looking at feedback, it is also important to look at semantics. And this is my favorite question. And Pavel, I'll come back to you on this, that, what semantic gaps we see in the ecosystem today when we talk about AI native software. Do we have practically understood how these agents will interact with each other? We have seen a lot of technology revolution happening with MCPs and A2As of the world, right? So what gaps you see from a CI/CD perspective when we want to scale this at an enterprise grade level? Maybe you can throw some light on that.
Sure. You said we have 30 minutes, right?
Yes.
All right. So the thing is that still this is quite new arena for us, right? So we still learn what we can do and how we should do. For example, we have MCP servers, like you mentioned, but we also had A2A protocol, right? Which is similar but a little bit different. And who knows what will happen tomorrow, right? So this is the one element. We have to remember that AI, especially LLM models, which we are using to, to like have the conversation, are not deterministic. And this is the biggest problem here, because how to monitor something what is not deterministic, right? You can do it only with thing which is also non-deterministic, in fact, right? So this is a big problem related to everything, really, because we have some behavior of our system, we have some behavior of our pipelines, we have some behaviors of specific tools we are using or actions we are taking, and so on and so on and so on. How we ensure that the tools we build with AI to observe what's going on will tell us exactly what's going on. Will not have the situation when you ask ChatGPT about something, you know it hallucinating, you say, but this is not right, and you hear the answer, yes, I'm sorry, you are right. I know I'm right, but you should be right. I'm asking you, right? I need answer from you, not that I'm helping you to answer to me, because it's waste of time. So having this understanding is very, very important. That's why I'm a little bit skeptical about AI today, okay? I'm not worried that the data from Star Trek will be here in 1 month or 1 year or something like that. No, it will not. But I'd like to have one, honestly speaking. But this is the part where this non-deterministic logic, which doesn't have like very huge context, acts only on data provided, which gives us another like caveat, very big one, the context window, for example, right? So are you able to put, for example, you want to like analyze the trends from 1 year or 5 years of your systems, right? For example, you have 10,000 pipelines in your system and you want to analyze the trend from last year. Are you able to put everything into this context window, or you have to play a little bit with that, right? And from other side, it will take longer, yes, but this is the mathematical data there, right? So maybe you just need simple script to count everything. So, the problem is that we use AI to many things which are not necessarily like first choice for me. For example, I would like to have AI to analyze the code in the PR, but not from the perspective of the quality of the code. But for example, what we agreed as a team, how we will write this code, how we will design, how we will, name the variables, things like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
And the second question, the final question from me here is about the PRs. If you have AI in PR and something will be wrong on the production after the PR will be accepted by AI, who will be fired?
Who's good? Yeah.
Claude will be fired.
we are waiting for that doomsday, right? When the
Yes.
AI is here.
You are supposed to have hired the AI.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think you mentioned of quite a few points which were like very thought-provoking. Tracing of hallucination, for example. You also mentioned if there is context-aware instrumentation available today in observability, and how do you map it to domain-specific matrices. So all these are semantic gaps, right? Before we actually envision to scale this to an enterprise-grade software, we need to fix the key observability gaps which we see, right? From a semantics point of view. We also would like to bring one more point before we actually bring some kind of, practices which can help practitioners to kind of demystify this challenge. Standardization and interoperability. I mean, this whole area is fragmented, and open telemetry, for example, has brought a sig for standardization and interoperability for observability for Gen AI particularly, right? So Yair, I will come to you now, because I think most of these things need to also be addressed in the CI/CD context, right? And we are close to
Yes.
talking about. Yeah.
Yes. I think I, in a way, I can tie it up to what Pavel was saying, because I definitely agree with what he said. I've been in the field for 30 years, okay? And I'm also an historian. And it's funny, I studied some sort of this history in a semantic way. So it's kind of fitting exactly what I'm looking at. And I'm even thinking of writing a book about it. But we had so many revolutions coming. Just to give you one example, DevOps, for example. Nobody knows really what is DevOps, but still people hire for DevOps engineers. Then we have something like Agile or Platform, or so many companies that I saw that trying to solve all their problems with Kubernetes. And then the same will come to AI. And then AI is already trained on all these fragmented things. And then it comes to the game, and we're using it in the wrong places. And when we're using it in the wrong places, we create more havoc and more trouble. And it takes a lot of time to see the nuances of where these tools, and I'm sorry, I will call them tools because it's not AI, it's a tool still. It's not it's a tool. It's like Kubernetes. And these tools, they can solve a lot of trouble. They can help us be much faster, but they will slow us in other places. And knowing when to use the tool, why, and the context, that's even taking the semantical thing into humans, because we're still gonna be a team of people. And imagine I'm running with 5 Claude agents running and an MCP servers everywhere, and suddenly, I don't know, Pavel needs to deal with what they did. I don't know what they did. Pavel don't know what they did. And in a way, we need to find, like, CD events is also a good practice. I'm really impressed from what people are trying to do there. I think some interesting aspects can come from the eBPF area. If we can create some sort of a standardized eBPF, like some sort of a Cilium language that is a bit more complex than just 7 layers of ISO or whatever we want to call the network. Like, the world is changing, and we cannot just do sniffing to a network. But I am lately really putting a lot of effort into eBPF as some sort of a doorway into understanding what's going, and finding a way to standardize it, like contextualize the data that goes there, and then maybe have AI at the end getting like very standard JSONs that, or whatever we want to call these things, a message and something in that vicinity. But this is like it's years of work, I think, or months of work. I don't know, but I've been really putting effort into that. So that's my answer, to be honest.
Right. I think, yeah, we don't have a crystal ball at hand. That's what we are kind of saying, and we are,
We can't ask
piloting or
ChatGPT.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
piloting and experimenting at this stage. But I would like to bring Moise into this discussion now, because he is working with OSPO, for example, and how open source technology, because these problems we see as they are happening now, and for us as CD ambassadors, and we come from like a CI/CD kind of practitioners background, what would be our key guidance for the community to take? There's a lot of like open source community action, which is kind of also developing to adopt like community driven observability frameworks, open telemetry being one of them. We have mentioned that there is a SIG, which is looking at Gen AI and how do you standardize and the capability there from an observability perspective. Langsmith, Langfuse, these are also some tools and applications people have started to look into to ensure that they are future proofing their development, right? So Moise, what do you see from your OSPO office, and if you can provide some guidance to the practitioners here?
Yeah, thank you for this question. About the OSPO side, the we have a couple of principles. So the principles. So the first one is make everything open. So find everything could be open. So on the model in the AI side, on the model, find all the model, the model open, the open model you can use, and the interoperability is very very important too. So use use all the technology gonna be interoperable, and find a way that yeah, we can use AI, but is it AI for everywhere or AI for everything? It's not like the Swiss knife. Is you have to scope the use case. We have to make sure that the scope is very good for the use case. So in terms of the tool, we are just manage the principles. So define a couple of principles and tell, okay, we know that yeah, we deal with the engineer, we deal with the researcher, we deal with this all those stuff, and we know that we're gonna use the AI to make a research, make find the code or develop the code or improve your code, but make sure all the tool you are using is compliant, is open. We can use the observability tool on that side to be sure that all the stuff you are making, you try to involve making done is can be monitored, can be fine if we are compliant. I talk about the license because license is very very complicated to manage, and so yeah, that is the couple of tools we are using in the OSPO so far, though. And I'm open. So if we have some requirement for me, or recommendation for me, I'm open to see how. I don't know, Jazz, if you already deal with this kind of thing, and I'm open for the rates, the return of experience.
Yeah. I would like to park the big question for Josh, because that is
Okay.
the last question of the panel. But I want to come back
Well,
to Powell for
Okay, perfect.
one discussion, which is basically designing for explainability, right? This is
Oh,
a big part of the problem, right? And
yes.
observability can kind of be the lever to ensure that we evolve in that direction, right? So if you can throw some light on, how practitioners should kind of take the first steps for designing their software for explainability with AI in the mix, and how observability can play that important role for providing that tracing, automatic logging, if there are other, components to the equation. I would like to hear from you.
Sure. Just to come back a little for a second, it is artificial, yes, but not necessarily intelligence, right? So it's still the set of, some kind of code, right? Explainability is very important because we have to remember that AI for us in any form is kind of black box, right? So we need to understand from where the answer came, how the model thought about this, and why this answer came from this model, right? So understanding the, let's call it thinking process of the model is very important, right? What kind of data is taken into the consideration, how the calculation or thinking process went, and why the answer is like it is, right? So we need to have like very clear information what model is doing. The same like we do with the coding, we have comments, we have README files, we try to make the code as clear to others to read. Well, we try. The same should happen with AI models, right? To have this information, clear information, how to use the model, to what we should use this model, and how this model works inside. Because this is everything what we will have. We will not have anything else from it, right? Also, what can be very nice, I'm not sure how to achieve this at this point, but to have like a, let's say, summarized score for the answer related to how, like, let's call it this way, how model is sure that the answer is correct. Right? So this may give us even some metric later to analyze, right? So we will have information that our like score from 1 to 10 is always 1 or 2. So probably we need to change something, right? So having this in the scope of chain, how we observe this, right? How we ensure that our use of AI is really correct in the scope we really need. So what kind of metrics we should set proper guardrails for our models, right? So what model can do and cannot do really. And also monitor the number of, let's call it, hits in the guardrails, because this will give us the information how broadly, let's say, model want to act, right? We should also remember that, well, I don't remember the correct name for it, but I would say that the model with the AI in time degrades, and the answers are more flat and more flat and more flat, right?
Yeah.
So we should also, like, let's say, compare how the model acted previously, how model acts now. But now the question is how to do it.
Yeah.
Right? So again, we can, for example, put into the chain something what I think it's even called LLM as a judge. So there is one LLM who is giving us an answer, but the second is checking this answer if this answer is correct, right? We can also use models for like rephrasing our prompts, because everything what we use in conversation with LLM is using prompts, right? And let's be honest, we are not best in writing prompts, or, well, right? I know what I'm writing to AI, so we are not the best. So one LLM can like rewrite the question and send it for answer, right? But this provides another like complexity into the chain. So question is if this is worth it or not, right? So those are the most important and basic things for me. For example, also, we can have more verbose information from model, what the model is doing. I'm thinking about this, I'm checking that, and so on and so on. So we will have the information how much RAG is used, or how like well understood RAG through the model is, right? And things like that. So this kind of reference checking is very important.
It's excellent, Pavel. I know you can go on with more guidance,
Oh,
but
yes, I can.
Yeah, we will have to do a part two and part three with Powell and others here. But I promised Josh that I will have the most difficult question for you at
Wow,
the
my
end.
gosh, it's coming my way.
So,
I'm
because
happy
you're
for you.
coming from a business perspective and business side of observability, right? So, the road ahead, observability to business enablement, how do you build trust and accelerate innovation at the same time? While you're unlocking business value, right? So maybe you can put some points on how do you see the road ahead for observability, and you mentioned feedback loops, but is there anything else which we should consider as practitioners? What will be the first steps in the process if you encounter a release management for AI native software? Yeah.
So to answer your question, to enable, for businesses to be creative and innovative at the very tail end, observability needs to be built into their pipelines, into the systems that deploy that, whatever features. So it's not like adding observability as an add-on. It has to be at the very beginning. It has to be built in within that whole system. And this is where I'm going to sound selfish. I'm going to be sounding selfish, so do apologize. This is where release on demand comes in. So we are talking about models, how to deploy these models, how to learn these models, adopt a test and learn approach. That means we need to be continuously deploy these models into the production and testing them. Hence, we need to have that underlying release process. When I mean the release process, we're talking about the development, deployment, operations, governance embedded into the pipeline, automated from beginning to the end, including observability, so that developers, or let me use generically, the AI builders are getting feedback. Users who are using these AI models are also getting feedback, and it's all being integrated, and all key stakeholders are being updated. So that's I think that's where the future is, building into rather than adding it ad hoc or bolting afterwards.
Thank you, Josh. An excellent explanation. So we are running out of the time in this panel, but I will come back to each of the panelists for a one-liner, as we do always, that, observability for AI native software. And think about, from a CI/CD foundation perspective, what we would like to say as, the next steps in the process, if you have some guidance from the practitioners or the things to do in your list. Maybe we can start from, yeah, Yair this time, and then we go all along the panel list.
I
So,
would,
short
I would,
explanation.
yeah, one sentence. I would actually put effort in checking how much human intervention patterns are happening when I'm using AI. So that would be very interesting. As a practitioner, like put an eye how many times is it
Mhm.
changing for
Moin?
PRs and stuff. Uh, Next one, maybe.
So me, was it me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, one sentence. I would say observability is the enabler of safe autonomy, uh, safe and confident deployments and autonomy. That's my phrase.
Moise?
Yeah, on my side, be sure everything is open. Make sure that observability help us to find every metric we can we are already defined in our pipeline. Yeah, in the about the open source or open everything. Yeah.
Pavel?
Right. So from my side, before you go forward, just stop, go next to your path, look at it, and decide if your beautiful, complicated AI cannot be like exchanged for 10 lines of bash script.
Thank you very much. It seems that AI is rewriting the rule for software engineering, and we can harness the full potential of the organization, we must invest in next generation observability solutions when we talk about AI native software. We have to make it more explainable, we have to deeply integrate observability into the stack, and leaders have to prioritize observability with the best positioned application tech stack available today to ensure that they do not miss on the evolution or the innovation game here from a software perspective. We will come back to you with more topics and cutting edge technology and open source solution in CI/CD domain. But for now, I would like to thank my panelists for taking out time and having this discussion. We will come back for sure with a next topic. Stay tuned, and thank you very much for listening.